pass on all things rock.
There's absolutely nothing else happening in the world of importance but this.
Trunk Nation with host Eddie Trunk.
Dude, killer.
What's happening, everybody? Eddie Trunk here with you, and it is time for Trunk Nation here on Sirius XM 103 Faction Talk and the Sirius XM app. Hope you are having a good Tuesday, and thank you for hanging with me here on Trunk Nation, as always, covering the world of rock and taking your phone calls and bringing you guests and all that sort of stuff, and we will do all of that today. We are going to welcome to the show in a bit Brad Gillis of Night Ranger. We'll talk to him for a little bit. We will have time for your calls. But as we get on the air here, unfortunately, we have some breaking, sad news from the world of rock music. And this is literally just coming in and just being reported by TMZ, which is usually extremely accurate when it comes to stuff like this. TMZ is reporting that Frank Beard of ZZ Top, their drummer, has passed away at the age of 77 years old. I'm reading this from TMZ.com. I will read it to you, what they've written. According to the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner, Frank passed away on August 17th. So yesterday, after a stay in hospice, Frank recently faced serious health issues. A cause of death has not been disclosed at this time. Frank's health forced ZZ Top to cancel its August 5th concert at the Hollywood Bowl. Frontman Billy Gibbons said at the time the band was dealing with insurmountable obstacles and asked fans to bear with them during the interruption. Frank had also been absent from the band's recent performances, with drummer Michael Monahan filling in behind the kit. ZZ Top performed without Frank in Saratoga, California, just days before TMZ learned of his death. Frank joined ZZ Top in 1969, spending more than 5 decades anchoring the group alongside Gibbons and late bassist Dusty Hill, playing on all 15 of the band's studio albums, helping power some of its biggest hits, including LaGrange, Tush, Gimme All Your Love, and Sharp Dressed Man and Legs. ZZ Top was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004. The group's classic lineup remained intact until Dusty died in 2021. I can't believe it's been already that long since Dusty Hill has passed away. So this is, again, being reported by TMZ. I have not really seen it reported in many other places, but it is on their website. And this is obviously very, very sad news to start the day here on a Tuesday, or in the middle of the day, depending upon where you are. I'm just kind of checking to see if there's any other news. And I don't really see it posted anywhere else.
Not on their socials yet either. Nothing like that. I'm not seeing anything else either.
Yeah. So this is, unfortunately, this is how this happens a lot of times. You kind of hope it's not true because, you don't want it to be true. And then, of course, historically, TMZ breaks this news, and, TMZ, which obviously for a long time had a, very, big history as a gossipy sort of thing, has, evolved into being a pretty legitimate and a pretty reputable news outlet. They still do a lot of gossipy stuff, but obviously they also get it right most of the time. And if now you see them being used on major news outlets and what have you. So unfortunately, this probably is true, even though ZZ Top themselves have not released a statement. But again, this is usually how information like this rolls out, with TMZ being the first to get it and break the news, and then everyone else following suit, and then the band or the band's organization or what have you having to, come out with a statement when they're ready to do so. But according to what TMZ is telling us, Frank Beard has passed away at the age of 77 years old. I had gotten, in full honesty, I had woke up this morning here in Vegas to a text from a friend of mine who told me this news a couple hours ago. It had not been reported anywhere else. I was not going to be that guy. And, there's people that love and live for being first and breaking news and being the first person. I would much rather err on the side of caution and the side of knowing that it is fully confirmed before being that person. I think that's more important than anything. Although, again, in this clickbait world that we're in now, people tend to want to be first in line or be the first. I think it's more important to be the most accurate. So I was hoping this was not true, and I was hoping that this would not develop today, but clearly it is developing, and I'm sure that we are going to get an official statement from the band or their representatives likely very, very soon. And when I do, I will read it to you. We do know that, Frank has missed shows with ZZ Top on and off in recent years, not just the shows that were being cited there by TMZ. He had missed shows in the past in recent years. His drum tech, John Douglas, who also subbed for Joey Kramer and Aerosmith, was subbing for Frank here and there. And I had heard when ZZ Top canceled that show very last minute at the Hollywood Bowl that Cheap Trick was on as well, that was because of issues with Frank's health. And then we didn't hear anything more about that. Now TMZ's story reporting that Frank Beard was in hospice, which is obviously, for somebody that is not likely to make a recovery from their health. So I don't know what he was dealing with and what was happening for it to take a turn that severely, and for them to have to cancel a show like that so last minute at the Hollywood Bowl. But now, as it stands, ZZ Top, which for the longest time was a band that was an incredibly rarefied air, a band that could boast all original members for the longest time as a trio. I've talked about this before. It seems like, for whatever reason, trios tend to hold lineups together longer than bands made up of, more than three people. And, forever I would always say that ZZ Top was the benchmark for the longest band ever to have all original members. Never even have a lineup change. It's not like, they, for instance, Poison had all original members for the longest time, but throughout their history, they had other members come and go and then came back to their original lineup. ZZ Top never had anyone in it but Dusty, Frank, and Billy, until more recently, with Dusty Hill dying, Elwood comes in almost immediately on bass. And again, we had seen Frank Beard miss some shows over the years with reported health issues. Then it's starting again recently, and now coming news today that Frank has passed away at 77 years old. Again, nothing has come out as far as the cause of death or what exactly he was dealing with. I did not know Frank Beard. The only guy in ZZ Top I ever knew and know personally is Billy Gibbons, who's been on the show many times. He's been to my house. He's a phenomenally great guy. And you would assume here that he would be the one that would continue steering this ship. I mean, we when it comes to the business of music, and make no mistake, I mean, it is a business, folks. And how many times do I talk about this? Bands do not, no pun intended, miss a beat. when a longstanding member goes down. Or maybe they miss a couple beats, meaning miss some years. In some cases, they don't miss a day or two or a show. An example of a band that missed some years would be Rush, who took like a 10-year pause and are now back. A case of a band that barely missed a beat was ZZ Top when Dusty Hill passed away. So what they do going forward, I would completely expect, just like when Frank Beard went down, when they lost Dusty Hill, days later they were doing shows with Elwood. I would not be shocked at all if that is, in fact, what happens here. We'll see as it unfolds, but history has shown that that is probably exactly what's going to happen. And, Billy Gibbons has always been that very identifiable guy in the band. So I would expect him to continue to steer this ship and want to keep this going. I'm not trying to be callous about it. It's just looking at the history. They barely missed shows when they lost Dusty Hill. It was the same thing. He was in the band since day one. And whoever they get going forward, I would expect, whether it's the guy they've been using or they go back to John Douglas or someone, I would think that they'll continue touring and probably make an announcement about that fairly soon. May even be within the confines of the statement that we get on Frank Beard when an official statement comes out on that. But
there's
look, Frank,
one now on Instagram.
From ZZ Top?
From ZZ Top, went out 1 minute ago. If you'd like to scroll over there, if you want me to read it to you, I can. Okay,
let me take a look. No, I'll grab it right now. So unfortunately, this is all very much, being confirmed here. And as usual, you kind of hope, that TMZ isn't right, but most of the time they are, and they are right once again. Okay, here is what comes from ZZ Top. This is from Billy Gibbons. I'm reading, quote, "Today, Elwood and I lost a great friend and collaborator, and the world lost one of the most naturally innovative drummers and a great and true son of Texas. His signature backbeat was key to keeping ZZ on top." Billy Gibbons. Following Frank's passing, ZZ Top has canceled its upcoming shows in Salt Lake City and Colorado Springs. Here we go. The band will resume its current The Big One tour this weekend with 2 dates at Austin City Limits, one of Frank's favorite venues, and in a city that had been something of a second home for him. I don't know, you guys, how you feel about this, but I called it and I didn't even read it. Just like with Dusty Hill, they lost maybe 2 shows. ZZ Top has just lost their drummer of more than 50 years, an original founding member of the band, and they will be playing shows this weekend. It's incredible. It is incredible where things have gone in the music industry, and whether it's a member quitting, whether it's a member being changed out, whether it's people not knowing whoever was or was not in a band, whether it's an original member dying. There's the old adage, the show must go on. I'm not sure where the line is on that, where you take, Rush lost their drummer. They took 10 years. It is unbelievable. But man, I'm just processing the whole thing. But they will make it a celebration, no doubt, and they will do what they do. And you can clearly see that already, within the same announcement of Frank Beard's death, the band is announcing the tour continues this weekend. And now going forward, ZZ Top goes from being, for the longest time, up until a few years ago, being the one band with all original members, to a band now that is one original member. And of course, that is Billy Gibbons. And Billy is obviously and always was pretty much one of, the front man for all intents and purposes for the band. The singer, the lead singer of the bulk of the material, the guitar player. So you can see where this is all going to go. I am not shocked at all at this announcement that they will continue in days after Frank's death. Whether it's right or not, or where you feel or land on it as a fan, is your prerogative. Me, what I've been talking about forever, brand over band and where things are going and who's got one original member, no original members. I mean, ZZ Top still has the guy that is most identifiable in the band, and he is clearly going to steer this thing and keep it going. But rest in peace, Frank Beard. Yes, an incredibly important part to the signature sound of ZZ Top, in the way he laid the beat down, in the way he allowed room for everybody else. Kind of in a way you'd think about Phil Rudd and how important what he did, the pocket he laid down in AC/DC and on all those records and songs, kind of similar for what ZZ Top did with Frank Beard. Frank Beard was also the guy that for the longest time was always the joke, because ZZ Top, of course, so known for their beards, and the guy whose last name was Beard was the only guy in the band that never rocked the big beard. But I never had the pleasure of meeting or knowing Frank Beard. All of my dealings with ZZ Top have always been with Billy. And, I've seen the band live many times. And in recent years, you had heard stories where, Frank was dealing with some stuff and struggling, whether it was a bit on stage with his playing or just with his health off the stage. And again, we started hearing about that more recently with the cancellation on the Hollywood Bowl show. And now we have gotten the news today that at 77 years old, Frank Beard has indeed passed away. So condolences to the fans of ZZ Top, to the friends and fellow musicians that have worked with Frank Beard and ZZ Top and the crew and all that. And, of course, to Billy Gibbons, first and foremost, who is now the sole surviving original member of this all-time legendary trio. We can talk more about this if you'd like. We can get your thoughts on it if you'd like after our interview, because, again, we're going to be joined by Brad Gillis coming up here in minutes. And when we're done with him, we will go to the phones and have pretty much almost the entire second hour today for you guys. Brad and the Night Ranger guys were on with us not long ago from the Monsters of Rock cruise. They are promoting a greatest hits compilation, which we'll talk a little bit about with Brad. Again, I want to get some clarity on what this record actually is, because having heard some of it, I'm a bit confused as if it's re-records, remasters, remixes, what they've actually done, because they've clearly done some stuff to this. And I'll be seeing Night Ranger along with a ton of other bands this weekend, as I've been talking about now leading up to it and getting closer and closer to the weekend. The Mountain Music Festival in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, kicking off this Friday, running for 3 days and nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And look forward to seeing you there if you are attending. And there are still tickets available at the door, single day or for all 3-day packages as well. And there are various pre-events and post-events and things like that going on around the town. If you've never been to Gatlinburg, it is a beautiful area in the Smoky Mountains. It's a cool little town there, and it's very tourist-oriented. with a lot of people coming there to visit. So there's various bars and restaurants and things in the town as well. And I know there's going to be some stuff going on there as well. I believe Don and Jim are doing some comedy, or there's various comedy shows. So there's always different things going on. Speaking of Jim, happy birthday to my That Metal Show partner, Jim Florentine, who is just days younger than me. I turned 62 on the 8th of this month, and Jim 10 days later is 62 today. So happy birthday to my good friend and one of my partners in TMS, who was just on, Don and Jim just on with us not too long ago, celebrating a birthday today. Also celebrating a huge birthday today, a 40th anniversary today of the release of Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet. Yes, if you want to feel old, Slippery When Wet today is 40 years old, coming out on this day in 1986. And it's pretty amazing if you think about it, because leading into this, the first couple Bon Jovi records, the debut album, second album, 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit, they first one did okay. So here, 40 years ago today, comes the third Bon Jovi album, which, I'm pretty sure if you talk to members in the band, they would tell you this was probably a make or break proposition for them, because they had to get over the hump and they had to break through. And needless to say, they did in a huge, huge way. Changing producers, working with Bruce Fairbairn and going to Canada to make the record. Also, for the first time, working with outside songwriters, bringing in Desmond Child to do some songwriting with them. And, it's important to note, when the record was initially released on this day 40 years ago, there were those question marks about the band. Was this going to be the one that was going to break? Was this going to be the one that made the band a household name? And was this one going to be the one that was going to finally, get them over the hump in terms of mainstream popularity? And without question, it did all of those things. It would be 99% sure stands as Bon Jovi's biggest album. Joel, see if you can look up the stats on what it sold. It's easily diamond. It's easily over 10 million. And it is, without a doubt, like I said, their biggest record, and has the most hits on it. Although the follow-up, the fourth album, New Jersey, had a lot of hits and did a lot of sales too, but nothing compared to what happened with Slippery. And when Slippery first came out, they were still an opening act. I saw Bon Jovi, after Slippery When Wet came out, opening for 38 Special at the Meadowlands Arena. I remember there was an after party. I have the invite to it still somewhere. You see the stats on it, Joel?
Yeah, 15 times platinum. Yeah.
So diamond and a half. Oh, and God, when was it recertified last? Does it say when it was counted last?
I'm still going to the site to get when it was certified last, but that's the number we're at.
So well in excess of 15 million in America alone. Of course, driven by massive songs. You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, Wanted Dead or Alive. I mean, the thing about Slippery When Wet is they actually had to stop releasing singles from the album, because they could have released every song as a single. There were songs getting played that they didn't even release officially as singles just because it was such a huge record.
It was actually recertified recently, July 2024.
Okay, so it's probably 16 million now. I mean, crazy. But yeah, I mean, I remember that. I remember they had actually stopped putting out singles and almost discourage airplay because they wanted to move on to the next record and they were worried about overexposure. But a song like Never Say Goodbye, which was never an official single, could have been huge if they made a video for that and did that as an official release. It's endless. So big 40th anniversary today to Slippery When Wet, an iconic rock album and one of the biggest rock albums we've ever had, and answered a lot of questions and put Bon Jovi firmly on the map very shortly after this day when it was originally released. Found this story crazy. I didn't realize this. And this has come up a couple times on the show, that we kind of talked and joked about, remember the Columbia House Record Club? Remember the RCA Record Club or the BMG Record Club? If you're old enough to remember, in the back of a TV guide or a magazine, you tape a penny and you get 10 records, but then you're on the hook to buy 5 more at inflated prices, and you'd get those, that big package of records in the mail. I had no idea until today, and this has made the rounds all over online, that the Columbia House Record Club still existed. I had no idea. And the reason why we know it still existed is because today they officially announced it's going to cease existing. Who knew it still existed? The final day of operations will be September 15th. The Columbia House Record Club started in 1955. This is unbelievable. Since it started in 1955, obviously it started with vinyl, moved to cassettes and 8-tracks and CDs. Then they tried to make a pivot to go back to vinyl with the resurgence of vinyl. That didn't really pan out. Then they became a club that was just basically selling DVDs and Blu-rays, which is what they were doing right up till the end and currently do, although there's nothing on their site of note at all. So how it was even a thing, I don't know. It changed hands to a few different companies. And now they are officially ending as an entity. There is a YouTube post on this on a channel called Channel 33 RPM. It does a little story on this. That's what I was reading. It's about 7 minutes, and it's a guy doing a video and talking about the history of the club. It's kind of interesting. So rest in peace, the Columbia House Record Club. If you didn't know, it was still a thing, although very, very different than what we remember if you are old enough to remember it. Recently, L7 bassist Jenny Finch passed away. We mentioned that when it happened. Today, her memoir has been announced. Apparently, she was working on a book, and the book is done. It's called Shooting Up and Making Out. It tells her whole story from her time in the punk rock bands and bands she's been a part of, her life as a photographer, her life battling addiction. Sadly, she passed away not long ago. The book will be released on January 19th. Best known, of course, as being a member of the band L7. And I don't really think, I don't really think there's anything to this, but Journey loves to stoke the fires about a possible reunion with Steve Perry, even though Steve Perry has said a million times he is not doing anything with the band ever again. But then again, so did Richie Blackmore, and he just went up and did Smoke on the Water. Jonathan Cain on social media saying, hey, we're getting closer to our final show, which is November 28th in San Francisco. When Neil Sean was on with us last, we talked to him about this show. Neil said, if you go back and listen to that interview, Neil said, well, it might be the final show for those guys, but I don't plan to stop. But there's been a lot of attention, being that it's in the band's home area of San Francisco, that perhaps something special will happen. I would not hold out hope for that, folks. But Jonathan Cain basically saying, hey, who knows who will show up? Maybe a reunion of sorts. I mean, look, the band would love it. The fans would love it. But I seriously doubt you will see Steve Perry there. Who knows? Maybe a reunion with Ross Valerie. Maybe a reunion with Steve Smith. But of course, the reunion people were hoping for probably, if you listen to Steve Perry, highly, highly unlikely. But it's, always nice to pump that out there. Who knows? All right, there's what we have. Fairly light news day, but of course a major story today breaking as we got on the air. And again, in case you just joined us, and that news is the passing of Frank Beard, legendary drummer from the legendary band ZZ Top, passing away, officially now reported and confirmed by the band at the age of 77 years old. Rest in peace, Frank Beard. And again, to no surprise, ZZ Top are going to take 2 shows off and resume playing live this weekend. Almost exactly similar to what they did when Dusty Hill passed away. Okay, there you go. We'll talk more about this if you'd like after our interview, but I got to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Mr. Brad Gillis dropping.
From the stage to the tour bus and beyond.
We're talking about it.
This is Trunk Nation.
With Eddie Trunk, Sirius XM.
Faction Talk.
All right, we are back, everybody, and we are talking rock with you as we do here every weekday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time, live on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk 103, or the Sirius XM app, live or on demand anytime you'd like. Last time I saw this guy, we were on a ship together on the Monsters of Rock cruise with his other cohorts in Night Ranger. We were in that what was it, like a barbecue restaurant or whatever where I was broadcasting from. We had a great time down there.
I love those cruises. We have so much fun, and playing on the deck is also fun as long as the sun's not beating on you. But we had a good show on the deck, and then of course played indoors for our second show. And we got another one coming up in February next year. So we kind of do one once a year, it seems like.
Yeah, well, we had a great time, as always, on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and we were hanging out down there and had you and a couple of the other guys came by, Jack and Kelly, and it was fun, man. Always fun to do shows from there as well. It's such a crazy mix of people. Even just walking the halls, who you're going to run into and what you're going to get into is always a great time. And Night Ranger, Brad, we talk about it all the time. You guys were celebrating 40 years a few years ago. You're closer to 45 years now. This thing's been going, right?
Yeah, well, we got together in 1980. Well, I was with Jack Blades with Rubicon in the late 70s, and we played that Cal Jam 2, March 18th, 1978. Biggest gig day of my life, 250,000 people. Aerosmith, Hart, Dave Mason, Santana, Ted Nugent, and the little unknown band Rubicon. And, we kind of put out a couple records, did okay. And then towards the end, Kelly Keagy joined the band. Then we morphed into Stereo, didn't do crap. Then we morphed into Ranger. And while we were putting our demo together, basically I got that call after the passing Randy Rhoads to finish the Diary tour with Ozzy and finish that tour. I think my first show was April 13th, 1982, Binghamton, New York, sold out, scared 24-year-old kid, finishing off that tour. And then towards the end, Rudy Sarzo left to go back with Quiet Riot, and I left to come back to Night Ranger. And here we are 44 years later after our release of Dawn Patrol.
And what's amazing is, and I'm not just saying this because we're talking right now, I get it every day because you guys are very active still. You're playing all the time. You're playing all over the place. And I get calls about you guys to this show all the time. And, sometimes for some bands that's a good thing and some bands that's a bad thing because the calls aren't good. This band sucked. They're not good anymore. What happened to them? This guy can't sing. This guy can't play. This guy looks like shit. Let me tell you something. I just got a couple in the last few days. Everyone who sees Night Ranger now in 2026 and even in the last few years, they're all raving about how great the shows are. You really should take a lot of pride in that, you and the band, because that is not the norm for a band that's been doing it as long as you guys have.
Well, there's a couple of factors that, add to all that, Eddie. First of all, everybody stays in shape. I lost a bunch of weight since a couple of years ago when all my levels were too high. And I started noticing issues going on. So I'm swimming at every hotel. I'm watching my diet. I lost a good 15 pounds at my heaviest. And, I just got done walking up my hill this morning, just keeping it moving, and, just, and then Jack and Kelly, they're both in shape. Of course, Kerry Kelly and Eric Levy, Kerry, the other guitar player, and Eric Levy, our keyboard player, those guys are in pretty good shape too. And that just helps to the betterment of a show, I mean, if everybody's healthy and feeling good, we put 110% into our show, and Jack's still running around like a little, screaming banshee up there, and the energy's up. We're kind of delving into some of the better B-sides too to add to our set. It's really cool when we go to a city and we come back the next year, we have the set list of the year that we played before to be able to go on and change a few things around. So you're not getting the exact same show every night. Of course, we always play the hits. But we're going strong. We do about 80 plus shows a year still.
And what do you attribute, though, physically, your appearance? Yes, it's great. You guys take care of yourself and everybody. The other thing I think that people should know about Night Ranger, and this kind of came up because somebody called in the other day and they said, they all, when they're up there, they all look like they're having so much fun too. And I'm like, yeah, for some bands, they're faking that because then they go backstage and they hate each other and they go to separate hotels or get on separate buses or whatever. With you guys being around you so much and knowing you all so well, I told the listener, I said, that's truly legitimate. That's not an act out there. So, that goes on before the show, during the show, and after the show that you're having fun. So that must all play into it too. When you go on the road and you play all these gigs and you're doing this for so long, you're not on that stage with people you can't stand and don't want to be around. That's a huge thing, I would think.
Well, I think we keep each other in check, keep our egos in check. And there's a lot of humor. We're joking around all the time, just goofing off. And, we have an A-list crew, which is awesome. Our lighting guy, Steve Coker, man, he's been going crazy on all these great new lights to betterment our show. We got the screens along the front of our back line now. And Kerry and I turn our speakers the other way so we can crank them loud. And we have that video screen, which adds a bunch of content on it. We got these little lighting things that Steve added that do their thing. And then when we have the big LED wall, we're able to show that on there. So that kind of helps out the look of the show. We have a lot of fun, and the only drag are the bus rides. But when we get into town, everybody goes to the hotel room and gets some real sleep, and we don't even have to do a sound check anymore because everybody in our crew are accomplished musicians themselves. So that helps. And I got Darren Hurst as my guitar tech now. He was out with Frampton for years, Joe Perry for years. I got him now. This guy's awesome. Rewired my whole rig. My rig sounds twice as big now. Just little things like that to make the show better. And we're constantly trying to improve because, like you said, some bands just get up there and go through the motions. And, we don't do that. We're running around, going crazy, changing our set, and having a good time.
Better give a shout out to my man, Ed Repepi, too, when you're talking about your crew. I got to make, he's always looking out for me.
Oh, man. Ed Repepi, he's the best road manager we've ever had. He never even came from a road managing background. He had an Italian restaurant. He's got a funeral home. He's got these bomb dogs and body sniffing dogs that he takes. He was just at the Foo Fighters show, taking the dogs around, looking for crap. And then he started hanging out with our old road manager, Todd Confessori. He just started hanging out with him and learned the business. And then when Todd passed, we got another road manager in there, and we won't talk about him. And then we just brought Eddie in. Eddie goes, give me a shot. This guy wears 20 hats, man. He does it all. He commands respect from everywhere we go. It's to have somebody like that looks after the band, that just takes care of every little whim, and not that we need a lot, not where they're hard to handle on the road, but he just keeps it all together. And he goes into the show a day early and makes sure our rooms are cool and everything going on. And it's just when you got a crew like this that, and Dave Radley, our sound man, and kicking butt, and then the rest of the crew, everybody's doing their thing, and it's really helping out the shows.
Yeah, it's a good. I bring that up because it's a great vibe with you guys always on stage, off stage. Everything's always so pro, and it's just a great team. I got to ask you too. Just when we're talking about the early years of Night Ranger today, just before you came on the air, we got the news, sadly, that Frank Beard of ZZ Top has passed away. That was breaking today, just coming on the air. And
Wow.
you were telling me before we came on, because you're just finding out about this as well, that one of Night
Yes.
Ranger's earliest tours was opening for ZZ Top. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, when I left Ozzy and came back with Night Ranger, our first tour was going out with Kiss. You can't beat that. We started right there on top. Did this nice tour with them. And then right after that, a little after that, we went out with ZZ Top and did a bunch of shows nationwide. And just like Kiss, the guys in ZZ kind of took us under their wing. We were a new band, just came out with Don't Tell Me Love Me for our first single. And it was so nice that these big bands that are so established would take us under their wing and treat us well, you know? And, Billy Gibbons, it was just great. Would come and hang out with us. And there was one point where we played a show, I think in New Mexico or something. And Jack, we were backstage and he put his coat, or shirt or coat on a chair, but it fell off the chair. We got done. We came back. We all took our showers, get ready, get dressed. And Jack put on his coat and gets stung by a scorpion, right? And oh, wow. And he opens it up. This little baby scorpion drops out. And we're like, oh, crap, what the fuck, right? So we take him to the hospital. So he goes to the hospital. And I remember Billy Gibbons saying something, oh, man, are you okay? And Jack goes, I got bit by a scorpion. He goes, was it a little one? He goes, yeah. He goes, ooh, those are the most poisonous. No, and Jack's like, oh, shit. So he goes to the hospital and they give him whatever to take care of it. And he was okay. But then we ended up capturing that little scorpion. Somebody got it in a glass and Billy Gibbons got it and encased it in one of those glass globes, with the scorpion in it, and it had a little wood frame on the bottom and said, to Jack Blades, Lord have mercy, from Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top. And I'm sure Jack still has it. But, we just played with ZZ just a couple months ago. And we've done shows with them, a couple shows a year with them. So, it's sad to hear about Frank Beard.
Yeah, it really is. It's, you've been dealing with some stuff clearly, but now we've got the news that he is sadly no longer with us, but ZZ Top will continue powering through, and they've already announced they're going to pick up their shows again this weekend.
Yeah.
So Brad, one other thing on Night Ranger that I find really interesting, and this kind of ties into the record we're going to talk about, because there is a Best of Night Ranger album coming out on the 28th of this month. I find it really interesting because rock fans, when you bring up Night Ranger, true rock fans know the catalog. They know Rockin' America. They know Don't Tell Me You Love Me. They know the edge of this band, that this band is a hard rock band with two blazing guitar players and just all these great elements. But it's amazing to me because I will always get calls as well about you guys from very casual fans that the only Night Ranger song they tend to really remember and know that they hear so much is Sister Christian. And they will tell me that they'll go see you guys, whether you're on a bill with somebody or something, and they'll be like, wow, they're a lot more harder rockin' band than I knew. I kind of forgot about that other stuff because Sister Christian's the song that they're pounded with. Do you pick that up a lot? Looking out in the audience or meeting people, I'm sure, there's a lot of people that are your hardcore fans that know every song. But when you're on a bill with the ZZ Top now or these other bands where there's maybe more of a casual surface Night Ranger fan there, they walk away going, whoa, I didn't know you guys were that. I hear that so much about you guys.
Well, let me tell you what's going on with that one. We came out, Don't Tell Me Love Me, then we did Sing Me Away, the second record, Midnight Madness. We came out with Still Rockin' America, and then we released that little old ballad, Sister Christian. Took us to the top, major hit all over the radio, everywhere in the world, basically. And the record company at that time, we moved over to MCA, and they thought, man, so much success, with that ballad, let's just keep releasing ballads. And they came back with another ballad, and it just killed this band. And so right towards the end of the 80s, we just ended up calling it quits because our audience was dwindling. Of course, Nirvana came out, music changed. And we just decided to take a break. But a lot of people say that, and they come see us and go, and they don't connect. Don't tell me Loving Still Rockin' America with Night Ranger. In fact, you tell somebody Sister Christian, they heard of the song, but they'd never heard of the name Night Ranger. I hear that all the time. It's just the song's bigger than the band name. I don't know, just from things I've heard. But it's kind of what it is. That's the career that was put towards us. And we kind of turn it around with our live shows, letting people know of all these great rock songs that we do. We put the song Night Ranger in there. We put Eddie's Coming Out Tonight. And we, some of these, This Boy Needs to Rock, stuff like that on the set too. Let people know that we're a rock band, basically. And
Touch of Madness is one I want to hear. That comes and goes every once in a while too.
Yeah, there you go. That's another one. So we do have these bigger rock songs that weren't necessarily hits, but we're on the records. I always say the first three Night Ranger records were the biggest ones that did the best. But we're looking forward to just to playing live all the time. We're going to Japan here in a couple of weeks, opening for Journey in Fukuoka. That's going to be awesome. That's 25,000 people at the Fukuoka Dome. We're looking forward to that. We got Gatlinburg, Monsters on the Mountain, like you said, coming up. That's going to be awesome. So we love these festivals. We do a lot of shows with Bret Michaels too, and it's good to hear that he's coming back after he had a little illness happening with his. Of course, he's a diabetic and has issues. Coming back and playing that Saturday night with Bret headlining, and then us and all these other bands for these 3 days of this festival. So we're looking forward to that. So things are great. I tell people it's like I travel for a living and playing a band on the side because our travel is so hectic, man. These double-legged flights, getting up at 2 a.m. I'm not complaining. But I'm taking these double-legged flights to get to where we're going. Then, hanging out, doing our thing, get my exercise, whatever, doing our show, hopping on the bus all night long, doing another show, then flying it double-legged to get back home. I got a lot of miles on Delta, but looking forward to Japan, looking forward to these big festivals, and 2027 is already kicking butt with bookings. So we'll probably do another 80 to 90 next year too.
Amazing. All right, let's talk about this record now. It is coming out on the 28th, Night Ranger Greatest Hits. And let me ask you, and it's actually called Best of Night Ranger. Let me get that right. Let me ask you, because I'm trying to exactly figure this out. The songs on this record, some of it says remastered, what have you. To my ears, some of it sounds like it's also some of it remixed, maybe some of it re-recorded. What exactly did you do on some of these tracks? Is there any differences? Is it just been remastered? Did you re-record stuff? Tell me about it.
Well, basically, if you listen to old Night Ranger songs on the radio, like even my playlist at home when I play rock music and stuff, then a Night Ranger song will come on, and you'll notice it's just like lower in volume. It doesn't sit with the latest, greatest releases that basically ping them up to 10 or 11 that are just jumping out at you. So we wanted to go in and like remix, remaster on some of these old hits and just up the game, make everything sound huge to be at the level with everything else that's being released these days. So that's what we did. We did a bunch of old stuff and did remix, remastered and stuff, and tried to up the game and up the volume and just the intensity of it. Where we took the best songs from the later records, which I tell you, man, I think some of our the 5 records we've done in the last 15, 20 years, there's some good stuff on it. Just too bad that radio isn't picking up on it. Radio sucks, except for people like you. But radio itself doesn't really, even if somebody like the Foo Fighters or anybody releases a new record, you're only hearing it for a bit, then it goes away because they're playing all the old hits.
New Stones
boy,
record.
they came and
Everybody
went.
talks about how great it is. 1 week,
Yep.
yeah, everyone's talking about it. Gone. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's what we have to deal with these days. So, we'll see what this one does. And the cool thing about this new record coming out, like I said, all these old, the best of, and then some of the best cuts from the latest 5 records. It's coming out on Blu-ray, album form. It's coming out on CDs. People are still doing CDs. And we're just trying to throw something out there because we haven't had the chance to go in and do a new record. Now, Frontiers wants us, they love us to go in and do a new record. And we like that too. It's just a time factor. But what we've done in the past that seems to be working for us is everybody has their own home studio that's up to up to levels where we could do our great guitar parts at home, sound great, pass it along, and everything gets thrown together. Kelly, we actually go in a studio together for 4 or 5 days with the whole band. We go over our ideas. Then we take those ideas and figure out, we're going to use these, do a rough demo of the tempo we want, throw it to Kelly. Kelly takes it to his home studio, does the drums, passes it to Jack. He does his bass, passes it to me, passes it to Carrie and Eric and keyboards. And we do our parts. Then we come back in. Then we try to get together to sing the choruses. So you're in one room and figure out if Jack or Kelly's singing it to do their parts. And so it's called remote recording. And we save a lot of money doing that by going into big studio that it's just a waste of money to do that when you don't have to these days. So we didn't have a chance to do a new record, which we're still looking into the time frame to do that. But we were able to put out this greatest hits and compilation of the stuff that will be out the 28th, I think, of this month.
28th.
And we're releasing, I think, Don't Tell Me You Love Me is our first release.
And the songs, the older songs that are on here, like Don't Tell Me You Love Me, Sister Christian, and what have you, those are the original recordings of those songs? You just beefed them up through mixing and mastering?
What about those Raiders? Fernando Mendoza, man, that guy's awesome, man. Too bad we lost, but I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to a good Raider season this year because I've been a Raider fan since 1975. So to answer your question, yes, I am a Raider fan.
Enough said. You've answered the question. That was great. Are you excited about football season, Brad?
Are you kidding me? I got to tell you, man, I was in Little League when I was a kid. I was a pitcher. My dad was a pitcher in the Navy. He got me into Little League. I loved it. And then, I got a guitar, started playing rock and roll. And then in 1975, a friend of mine's dad owned the complex, owned the land where the Oakland Raiders built their training camp, right? And so he ended up getting 50-yard line seats to a Raider game. So my buddy Scott Cowan, my best friend at the time, said, "Hey, man, you want to go to a Raider game?" I'm like, okay, I'll go. Boom! Oh my God! It was amazing to me, just amazing. And they won last minute. And then around 1980, when Night Rangers was trying to get our record deal, we weren't playing out much. I put together this band called the Alameda All Stars, and we were doing all these great songs around that time, Bad Company and Leonard Skinner and all this stuff. I ended up doing, we played this Sunday Night Jam, and when the Raiders would win, this is in Alameda, California by Oakland, Kenny Stabler and John Matusak and Dave Casper and Raiderettes would come in and hang out with us, right? It's like, oh my God, my new favorite team, now they're hanging out at my gig, And Dave Casper used to get up on stage and play country songs, and nobody listened. But, it was cool, and I ended up buying, vintage acoustic guitars from Dave Casper at one point, but I grew up with the Raiders, and I'm a big football fan, and I think it's a big turnaround for us this year with the new coaching, Clint Kubiak and Fernando and all these new players. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I'm a massive NFL guy, and I'm a massive Giants fan, but I wonder, you being a Bay Area guy and a big Raiders fan, and I'm in Vegas. I live in Vegas. How do you feel about them being here? Are you okay with them being here? Do you come to games here?
I go with the flow. I've already been to 2 games there. When they moved down to LA in the 80s, we were doing records in LA. I go to the Rose Bowl and I see them there because our manager at the time had 50-yard line seats. So I see them down there. And then, of course, they came back. Then they went to Vegas. And like I said, I've seen them there twice. That stadium is like unbelievable. And I plan on going back again, some more coming up. But my First truck that I got was a silver and black, Chevy Blazer. And, I used to wear silver and black on stage. I got little Raider decals on my guitars that I play now and my bubba that I've always played. Yeah, yeah,
And
man.
and Brad, now we're taking the A's. Vegas is getting the A's.
Yeah.
Oh, the two Oakland teams are coming to Vegas.
I don't know what to say about that, And I am a 49er fan, too. That's my second team is 49ers. And, so I plan on seeing them, one point, the coming season. So, football. In fact, I'm just looking forward to going to live games and seeing an actual winning season. We'll see what happens, Eddie.
Yeah, well, I'm there with you as a Giants fan. We've had some rough years lately, so I'm looking for a big turnaround, having John Harbaugh as our coach and some changes there. So I got my fingers crossed for a big turnaround this year. Well, listen, man, it's always great catching up with you. And again, everybody check out the Best of Night Ranger. It is coming out on the 28th, and I do agree with you that something that's really cool about this is the inclusion of some of the songs from the later records, because I agree 100%. I wish more people cared about new music from quote-unquote classic bands, and because there's a lot of good stuff out there, and you guys have made some great records recently, and it's good that there's a sampling of that in here along with all the classics that everybody knows as well. So say hi to the guys. I'll see you this weekend. I'll see you in Gatlinburg. We'll be running from the Black Bears together because I don't know if you know this, there's Black Bears all over there, and they come out.
Well, okay. I don't think they'll be coming around.
No, they come around.
I don't think they'll be coming. Yeah. Oh boy. I don't know. I'll keep an eye out for that.
You get people all drunk, like, hey, I want to feed the bear. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eddie, well, like always, thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend. It's going to be a blast. And, looking forward to that, releasing that Best of Night Ranger, and check it out. Like I said, it's available CD and these different colored formats, records. It's just another fun record to put out before we go in the studio and do some new stuff.
nightranger.com. You can find a link there to get more information, and you can order it, and you can see all the different formats, as Brad said, vinyl, CD. Looks like there's a package that has a T-shirt with it, the whole deal. So, all right, buddy. Well, listen, take care of yourself, travel safe, and we'll see you on the weekend at the Mountain Music Festival in Gatlinburg.
You got it, buddy. See you in a couple of days. Take care.
See you, man. There's Brad Gillis, everybody. Good checking in with him, as always, here on Trunk Nation. And again, the Best of Night Ranger compilation, again, out on August 28th, available for pre-orders now. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we will go to the phones for the rest of the show. Let you guys get in on the conversation, anything you want to talk about in the world of rock. Again, in case you just heard the news, it is most unfortunate, but sadly, we can report and confirm that Frank Beard, ZZ Top's only drummer. ZZ Top was a band that was only original members for the longest time until Dusty Hill passed a few years ago, and now Billy Gibbons, sadly last one standing, as Frank Beard has passed away. The news being announced today. His death was yesterday at 77 years old. Cause of death not yet disclosed. ZZ Top already announcing that they will continue playing shows this weekend. We'll get your thoughts on anything you want in rock after this break. 844-686-5863. We now also have a bit more of a extensive statement, I believe, from ZZ Top. We'll take a look at that during the break. I'll hit you with it when we come back. Stand by. More coming up on Trunk Nation.
Nation, talking music that made parental advisories cool. Here's your host, Eddie Trunk, Sirius XM Faction Talk.
I just got an email here about possibly having something with Roger Daltrey, which would be super cool. We'll see if that comes together. Just going through as usual, tons of stuff going on here. even during the commercial breaks, just trying to keep up. Roger Daltrey's playing here in Vegas. But unfortunately, I am not going to be here at the time he's here because I was hoping to try to get him in the studio. He's doing acoustic shows, I believe, at the Wynn, where the SiriusXM studio is. But I am going to be back east at that time because I've got to go to Tennessee this weekend for what we were just talking about with with Brad, with the Mountain Music Festival. And then I'm east for a bit, and then into Rocklahoma Labor Day weekend before coming back west. So as usual, these bands talk about running around. So am I, just trying to get everything in line. But maybe we can get something done with Roger. That would be cool. Also just saw that the opening act for Roger Daltrey here in Vegas is Jeffrey Gaines, who I love, and I did not know he was. Oh man, I would love to have seen that show. Can't do it all. Okay, so here we have an official statement now from ZZ Top's PR regarding Frank Beard's passing. Let's see what this says, if there's any new news in this. It was announced today that Frank Beard, ZZ Top's drummer for the past 56 years, has died. He was in hospice care when he passed away at his ranch in Richmond, Texas, with family members at his side. Beard, together with guitarist Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill, were one of the most enduring lineups, continuing until 2021, when Hill's passing saw Elwood Francis join the band. Let's see here. I'm just trying to check the wording on this. It was Frank Beard who, in the waning days of 1969, suggested to Billy Gibbons, then a frontman in search of a rhythm section, to audition Dusty Hill. Beard had played with Hill previously in a Dallas-based band called American Blues, and in the Warlocks, Hustlers, and Cellar Dwellers before that. The three got together at Gibbons' Houston home and proceeded to jam nonstop for 3 hours. It was a blues in D, a shuffle, recalls Gibbons, and we just didn't want to stop, and we didn't for the next 5 or 6 decades. The trio played its first show before a paying audience at a Knights of Columbus Hall in Beaumont, Texas, February 10th, 1970. They went on to a recording career that included 11 gold albums, 7 of which were also certified platinum, 2 platinum videos, and the band's Eliminator album has achieved diamond status in recognition of more than 10 million copies sold. Frank Lee Beard was born June 11th, 1949, Frankston, Texas. Was raised in Irving, Texas, where he attended Irving High School, inspired by the Beatles and then the blues. Got a set of drums and then soon met Dusty Hill. The saga of ZZ Top followed thereafter. I'm not going to read, this is a bit long. I'm not going to read through all of it, but you get the idea. Here's a little more that maybe you haven't heard. While the other members of ZZ Top are known for their flowing beards, Frank Beard, ironically, went mostly clean-shaven, with Gibbons suggesting Frank's beard is on his driver's license. The longevity of ZZ Top as a band, in contrast to most other groups who don't last as long, was acknowledged in a comment Frank conveyed to Kerrang! Journalist Sylvie Simmons. First and foremost, I guess it's because there's only 3 of us. So there's only 2 other guys to argue with. He also told her about the band's singular sound, for which he was a key component. Talks a little bit about the, of course, iconic videos. Okay, the statement closes by saying Frank Beard's passing necessitates the cancellation of ZZ Top tour dates that had been scheduled for tonight in Salt Lake City and Wednesday in Colorado Springs. The band will resume its current The Big One tour this weekend with 2 dates in and at Austin city limits, one of Frank's favorite venues and in his city that has been something of a second home for him. So there it is again. They are missing 2 shows. And continuing, I assume with the drummer who they had been using as a sub on these recent dates. This is the exact same pattern that they followed when Dusty Hill passed away. I believe they missed maybe 2 shows then. And honestly, there were some that were, as they say, show must go on. And then there were others that were a bit critical of that decision, thinking that it wasn't enough of a pause or acknowledgement. I don't know where people as fans land on that. It's going to cut differently for different people in different ways. But again, this is the music business. And that second word looms large. And a lot of things that goes on with all of these bands. ZZ Top certainly not the only band to run their business like this. So there you go. More of an elaborate, more of a lengthy statement there. There's also other stuff in there with quotes from Frank and things like that. I wasn't going to read every single bit of it, but you get the idea. All right, so that is obviously of note today, and without a doubt, the biggest news. We just wrapped up a few minutes ago, spending some time with Brad Gillis. I'm gonna give you a little insight as to my take on why Brad totally deflected from the question of the original song, the early songs on this Night Ranger Best Of album, when I asked him point blank if they were re-records or not. And he immediately went to saying how much he loves the Raiders in a clear and very funny, complete deflection. I will give you my take on that. To me, that clearly answers the question that they are re-recorded versions of the songs. And you do not have to be a genius or an audio expert in any way, shape, or form to listen to those early songs and know that they are new recordings. Brad didn't say this, but I've been talking about this and trying to figure this out for a few weeks ever since I've been getting hit up about this record. Because again, all you've got to do is listen to the songs and you can tell. I've talked about this so often. There are clear differences between remastering something, remixing something, and re-recording something. They are all 3 wildly different processes. Remastering, you really can do the least. You're just changing some EQs, you're changing some level, maybe changing the fade point. There's some things you can do. You can make it a little punchier sounding, but you're limited as to how much you can do. Remixing, you can radically change the sound of a record, but you're working off of the original recording. So you're taking the original tracks that were recorded and you are changing a lot, and you can put effect and you can change level. You can do a lot in remixing. Sometimes you can make it better. Sometimes you make it worse, but it's very noticeable. And then re-recording is obviously just completely going into a studio with whatever current members of the band there are and re-recording the songs. Why he dodged that question, which obviously to me means it is re-recorded. I don't know. I'm assuming because when you want to sell a greatest hits record, most people want original recordings. And sometimes re-records don't sell or market as well. You would then say, well, why not just get the original recordings? Well, that's because the label that's putting out this record does not own the original recordings. The original recordings would be owned by the label who put it out back in the early 80s. They don't have the rights to it, clearly. If you have the rights, you can then remaster those and put them out. So there's a bit of smoke and mirrors. My dear friends in Night Ranger are obviously, or their label, are kind of doing here for whatever reason. They don't want people to know it's re-recorded. To me, I think it's way more interesting re-recorded. Because if I'm being honest, there's been many Night Ranger greatest hits albums. There's been many compilations over the years. To me, that's a sellable angle because it potentially maybe the current band doing fresh recordings of the songs. I think that's actually way more of interest, especially given that there's been a lot of compilations from this band. But look, everybody's got the reason they do stuff. But again, that gives you a little peek and a little insight into what really goes on in the business of music, also known as the music business. You don't have the access to it, you can't do it, and then you kind of work around it a little bit. Very interesting. All right, let me see here, because again, my phone and my texts and my email are hopping here today. Okay, I think we're good. We're caught up. So yeah, all the Frank Beard news is out there. Talked about it at the top of the show. Read you the statement from Billy Gibbons. And now we gave you a complete more statement that just came out a little while ago as the news broke, as we got on the air here, of Frank Beard of ZZ Top passing away at the age of 77. The band is going to continue playing as of this weekend. And as of this weekend, Billy Gibbons is now the sole surviving original member of this legendary trio and will clearly continue to steer the ZZ Top ship. You want to comment on that? Anything else in rock? The Brad Gillis interview didn't get through yesterday. Anything you want to jump in on? We will go to the phones for the rest of the show at 844-686-5863. We'll get started with Dave, who's joining us from Texas today. Go ahead, Dave. You're on the air.
Hey, Eddie. Thanks so much for taking my call. I'm a Jersey guy living down here in Texas. I saw ZZ Top for the first time on the Eliminator tour up the old Brendan Byrne, and I saw them so many times down here. They always, I thought, phoned it in with the same old set, but it was still great to see the guys. First time I was down here in Texas, someone took me to Frank Beard's house. I didn't go to the house. I just saw his gate. It said top 40. And it was such a memorable thing. I'll never forget it. And I just wanted to chime in. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of calls about, it always touches us when somebody we love and we've seen several times when they go to the next plateau. And, 76 years old. Hopefully he'll have a good life. And, just wanted to chime in as one of the new representatives down here that has seen the band a few times.
Well, he's actually 77 at the time of his death yesterday. And yeah, you bring up an interesting, an obvious thing there, Dave, and thank you for the call, Dave. Nobody wants to deal with these realities. You don't want to be morbid, negative, dark, whatever you want to call it. But the simple truth is, as Dave alluded to, all of these artists that we grew up with, that we are such big fans of and played such a big role in the music that we loved and grew up listening to and hearing on the radio and what have you, as things move forward, we are losing more and more of them. You know, Richie Blackmore, who we just saw get up on stage last week with Deep Purple, something nobody thought they'd see, including me, 33 years. And he said in his interview, I believe, with Guitar World, that he wanted to do it because it was probably the last time that they would see each other. You know, and what he meant by that is it's incredible when you think about 4/5 of that lineup of Deep Purple, which started in the 60s, still being alive and still being active, 3/5 super active, Ian Pacey and Gil and Roger Glover. But yeah, as they go on their tour and Blackmore now at 81, I mean, he's probably right. You don't want to think like that. But he's probably right. And look, I mean, to me, and this is all relative as you get older, 77 feels young to me. Now, if I was 25, I wouldn't say that. But having just turned 62, 77 feels young. Also, you hope that with some of these advances in medicine that people are going to more routinely live longer, hopefully, right? Who knows? Yeah, I'm super lucky. I still have both of my parents at 85. There's not a day that goes by that I don't acknowledge that. And, you know, with this actress, I still don't know what happened with this woman, Hayden Panettiere, or what I don't know how you say her last name, but, you know, dying in her mid-30s. I don't know what went on there. That's really crazy young. But, you know, we talk about it all the time. You've got Brian Johnson out there at 78, 79 years old soon, singing with AC/DC. You've got Rod Stewart, who just needed oxygen on stage and now revealed another heart procedure. There's all, you know, every day it's a different shoe you're hearing drop with some of these people. And it jars you because I think a lot of fans, we live in this bubble of these records and videos that we grew up with. And those people are forever young and they forever are supposed to look that way and sound that way. And because we listen to them every day, if you're a fan of that band or they've touched your life in some way that every day you're kind of engaged with them, you think they're going to always be there. You think that they're always locked in. If you put on Eliminator from ZZ Top, it takes you to 1983 or when you got it. It takes you to the days of MTV. That's the beauty of music and art like that. It brings you in that time and place. And it puts you in that zone of where you were and how old you were. It makes you feel young. It brings you back to those moments when you heard those records and songs for the first time. And I think by extension, we feel like those people who made those songs are always forever in that bubble the way we saw them and the way hearing their music takes our memory to. And that's why I get a kick out of like when people call in, they're like, oh man, this guy looks like shit or whatever. It's like, you know what? Again, everybody ages, but you have in your mind the vision of them when they were 40, 50 years younger. You just don't want to deal with the reality of all of it until it smacks you in the face, like is happening more and more for us every single day when we have, or not every day, well, certainly every day, people in our private lives or something, or people you may know you hear passed away once a week, whatever. As you get older, that gets more common. But hearing more and more, unfortunately, of all these musicians that we love, you know, less than a year ago, Ace dying. I mean, whatever it is. For the longest time, we had the original ZZ Top. For the longest time, we had the original Kiss still alive. So it's really, really a tough thing for all of us as we kind of go forward and kind of deal with it on a way too common basis, it seems like. Here's Tony in Philadelphia. Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, Eddie. How you doing?
Good, Tony. What's happening?
Oh, cool. Just to make sure you hear me. Actually, my name's Sonny, but yeah, I'm from Philadelphia.
Oh, Sonny. I'm sorry. They wrote Tony. Sorry, Sonny.
You're cool. So you know what? I actually have two questions. My original one was, could you share any information about musicians, specifically guitar players and bassists that have had hand issues, either carpal tunnel or stuff stemming from their neck and messing up their nerves? You don't have to mention any names. I was just curious if you were aware of any, if you could share any information about that. But the second thing, you were bringing up the Brad Gillis interview, which was killer, and totally deflected that question. Could anything have anything to do with Jeff Watson, because he played on those recordings and he's been out of the band, kind of like what Sharon did with the Ozzy recordings back in the day?
No, I don't think that's
Bob Daisley's and all. Like if there was bad blood or anything like that.
No. Mm-mm. No, okay. I don't think it has. No, I don't think it has anything to do with that at all, Sonny. And thank you, Sonny, for the call. No, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think what it's about is, again, they don't. The label that Brad mentioned during the interview that is putting out this record is a very well-known label out of Italy called Frontiers, who releases a ton of records and has released a ton of records for a very, very long time. And they are putting this record out. They have nothing to do with the history of that material. So if you have a label that's putting out a compilation record, and it's not the label that owns the recordings, you have two options. You either license the recordings or you have the band re-record the songs. And that's the only... So it would have nothing to do with that, because there have been other Night Ranger greatest hits records with all the original recordings with Jeff Watson, of course, on them. The label owns the recordings. And the label that's putting out this record is not Night Ranger's label from back in the day. And that's when your only option, if you want to include songs from that era, if you're not able to license them, is to re-record them. Because the labels, the original labels, own the master recordings. They own those recordings. They don't, in most cases, own the actual songs. That's why anybody can cover a song. That's why anybody can re-record a song. You're able to do that, but you can't use the original versions of the songs unless you have a right to them, and that deal would have to be made with the company that owns them. So it has to do with that. As far as guitar players who have had issues with their hands, sure, there's tons, and some have been very public about it. Steve Morse, who was up until recently playing with Deep Purple, I mean, when I was with Steve on those Deep Purple dates, Steve was going through all sorts of stuff with his hand and his wrist. He had to wrap his hand every day a certain way. He had to put some sort of cream on it. He had to change the way he was playing guitar. He'll tell you all about it. He had to completely reinvent how he played guitar. Alex Lifeson, who on the previous Rush tour, R40, and for the years since they started again, talked all the time in interviews about dealing with arthritis and how that impacted his playing. When I saw Rush on R40, I would watch Alex after every couple of songs shake his wrist out. So yeah, guitar players have absolutely, that's just two off the top of my head, had those issues. Drummers clearly have had those issues. Carpal tunnel, things like that. So yeah, it's pretty common, and sometimes people can get treatments and find things to work around it. Alex had said that he was on medication for the arthritis, which helped him out a lot. Alex just recently revealed in a new interview in Rolling Stone that Brian Hyatt did that he stopped smoking weed after like 40 years or 50 years. Alex Lifeson was a huge proponent of smoking weed. Openly would talk about it even before it was legal in most places. He was very pro-weed. but I didn't get a chance to read the interview yet. But it's one of the headlines I saw was that he revealed that he has now stopped. Say hi to Bill, who's in New Jersey today. Hi, Bill. What's happening?
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
Good.
Good. Good interview, by the way, with Brad as usual. I actually, while you were doing it, I listened to the first 3 or 4 songs were available, and without a doubt, re-recorded.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's super obvious. They just don't want to say it, I guess, because they get. I guess some people wouldn't want to re-record, or I don't know. I don't know. Again, I think it's more interesting that they are re-recorded, but I don't know what the thought process is there. But him completely deflecting it basically cemented it. And again, all you got to do is hear it. All you got to do is hear it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. The previous caller mentioned something which I've always wanted to ask them. Any chance of a reunion with the original members? I don't know if there was bad blood when Jeff Watson left, or what the story was. And I know Fitz does like a lot of session work.
I don't know what. I have no idea what Fitz or Jeff Watson are doing these days. You see them online doing that stuff? They talk about it?
No, I've seen Fitz's name more than Jeff Watson, but Fitz's name, pop up, whether it's session work or, like he's kind of the man behind the curtain, doing keyboard work. But it would be just kind of cool to see if, the possibility of them getting all together again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Fitz. I do think, Bill, there was some bad blood with Jeff Watson. They seem to pretty much deflect that or shoot that down when that comes up as well. Last couple of times I had the whole band on. His name came up a couple of times. They didn't say anything negative about it, but I absolutely don't think that. Now, if you remember, Bill, if you're a big Night Ranger fan, when they did come back together initially, Jeff Watson was in the band and he was on that record. I forget the name of that record, but he was in the band. He was part of it for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of forgot about that, but the only other question I have, that if you can take one more, and I don't know if you know this one, but so I know "Goodbye" was a song that Jack Blades. It was about his brother who passed away from a drug overdose. I always found it interesting, though, that Kelly is the one who actually sings it, and I'm just wondering why. Why that is, but always want to ask him that. I was hoping you took a question with Brad, but don't know if you have any.
Well, next time. Those guys are on with us all the time, so we'll definitely get to some of this stuff next time they're on. Thank you, Bill, for listening, and thank you for the call. But yeah, I don't think if you're not a hardcore Night Ranger fan, and I've been seeing that band since day one. I've loved that band since '81 when I was in high school. That first album, Dawn Patrol, was just great. Jeff Watson was a big part of that guitar duo, obviously. And his style of playing, he had developed this style, which I believe they called like an 8-finger technique, where Eddie Van Halen would tap with 2 hands or 2 fingers or 3 fingers on the neck of the guitar. And Jeff Watson, if you watch the video for Rockin' America or whatever, he would do this thing where he'd put like 4 fingers on the bottom and 4 fingers on the top of the neck and almost play it like a piano on both ends. It was crazy. And I'm not a guitar player, but I remember hearing stories back around that time that Jeff Watson pretty much developed that technique. I don't know Jeff Watson at all because all the stuff I've ever done with them, even when he was in the band, was always with Jack or Brad or Kelly. But him and Brad were a lethal duo, and he should never be underestimated as to what he brought to that band. I think for a long time, Night Ranger had the two equally incredible guitar players in the same band. Usually you got one guy plays rhythm, the other guy plays lead. They were both incredible. But he was in the band when they first came back, whatever it was, 25 years ago or so. did that one record and then was out. And I remember at that time that he was out, there was some talk of like rumblings about money or bad blood or some sort of falling out. And by the way, you know, then what happened, there were some other people in Night Ranger. Joel Hoekstra was in there for a while. And then he left to join Whitesnake. And then Kerry Kelly came in, and he's been there ever since. And he's also phenomenal in the gig. Here's Steve joining us. Whoa, we're going to put Steve on hold. Something super loud in the background there for Steve. So let's go to another Steve, also in North Carolina, joining us now. Go ahead, Steven. You're on the air.
Yo, Eddie. What's up, man?
Hey, man. I had two Steves from North Carolina on this back-to-back lines. So yours not quite as loud, so we'll take yours.
Yeah, no demonic static on this Steve.
Yeah.
Yo, man, so will you geek out with me for a minute about Extreme? I saw him last night. It was unbelievable. Do you think Gary Cherone is a top 5 underrated frontman?
Well, I don't know about rankings, but I would agree he is insanely underrated. Gary is in probably his mid-60s now, and he is still all over the stage and still sings everything perfectly. I think, unfortunately, when it comes to Extreme, I think that, and look, it's a good problem to have, but Nuno has become such a huge focus of that band as the guitar hero that he is, that so much attention goes to Nuno, and I think that's certainly deserved, but I think in a lot of ways it also very greatly underrates all three of the other people in that band, because I think all three of them, Pat and Fig, are all great. So, but I agree with you 100% on Gary.
Yeah, it was insane. Vince's vocal was perfect last night too, for different reasons.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the call. There's a way to do it. Going back to Gary Cherone, he is, he's, I think, again, super, super underrated as a frontman and a singer. And I think Pat Badger's super underrated. Pat is the harmonies in that band, and Kevin Figueredo has been the drummer for a long time now. Watch that guy pound the drums. Extreme's incredible. Incredible what they do. But yeah, I think Nuno is become such, over the decades, such the focal point of the band that sometimes people sleep on the other guys in that band. I will bring it up again, folks, to Steven's other point, subtle point there. I cannot recommend more highly that you look up, well, first of all, check my YouTube channel, because you see videos of some of the interviews at Eddie Trunk. But I also cannot recommend more highly, and I don't know the guy at all, but a man that is doing God's work on YouTube, on the YouTube channel Wings of Pegasus. Do yourself a favor, if you care about what bands are and singers are and are not live, and who is doing what and who is not doing what, I cannot recommend you checking out this channel on YouTube. It lays it out in exact, indisputable, inarguable proof of what's going on out there with some quote-unquote live bands. Wings of Pegasus. Let's say hello to Scott, who's joining us from St. Louis today. What's going on, Scott?
Hey, Eddie. Not much. I just wanted your opinion on the new way they're doing Rocklahoma, because I know you host that.
Yes.
From the beginning, like 2009 and up, I mean, it was all 80s stuff, and now they're going way more commercial. I know you probably can't talk bad about them, but You think they could get some 80s back in there again? Some 80s bands?
Well, hold on a second, Scott, because first of all, you said from the 90s. Rocklahoma started in 2007.
2007,
so
right.
This is the 20th year this year.
Right.
But having been there and hosted it every single year, except for 2010, that was the year Dio died, and I hosted his funeral. But 19 of the 20 years I was there, and I can tell you the entire story and the entire arc of that thing and why it is the way it is right now. And the simple truth is that was only an all 80s event for the first 3 years. 07, 08, and 09. In 2010, it changed radically and went completely the other way and didn't have anything 80s on it. And then after 10, starting with 11 and 12, it became a little bit more of a mix. It is still, of all the rock festivals out there at that level, it is still the only one that will have some presence of 80s music in it. And sometimes it's out on that, all this and end it. And I said to him, no, I don't think you need to do that, but I do think you need to evolve the booking a little bit and make it more diverse, because that's the problem. And that ever since then, they've done that. And over the last 15 years, there have been different people that have booked it and come and gone. But the truth is that they need to, the reality is, and this pains me to say it, but a lot of 80s bands do not have enough of a draw to support a festival like that. They just don't. There's not that many of them out there. And the ones that are, and that do have a draw like that, all do their own shows and tour constantly. Motley's out right now. Guns N' Roses is out right now. Def Leppard is always out. Bon Jovi just did 9 nights at the Garden. And all of those bands, the price point for many of them would be way too expensive for Rocklahoma. So it is a delicate balance, and they walk a line there doing the best they can. Not everything on the bill, I'll be honest with you, is my taste, but I understand why they do it, and it's why it's what keeps it alive and keeps it going for 20 years, this balance.
Yeah, we had season tickets for 10 years straight, front row, left side, right behind the pit. So we loved it, the main stage stuff. And then they went, I mean, the last time we went, we haven't been going, Jelly Roll was on the backstage. So that just was not our thing. And we decided not to go anymore.
Yeah,
no offense to Jelly Roll. He's a talent, I know, but, it's not.
No, I get it. It's funny you bring that up, Scott, and I got to run. I remember the year that Jelly Roll was there, because again, I've hosted every year, and I remember introing him, and I had no idea who he was, because he was not known at that time. And I remember him being back on the back steps, and he had like a prayer huddle around him or something, and I was waiting for my cue to go up and intro him. I had no idea who he was. I did no idea. And because he was pretty low on the bill at that time, because he was not a known guy. But yeah, look, I remember in 09, the last year Rocklahoma was all 80s. I think one of the headlining acts, if I'm not mistaken, one of the days was Stryper. And nothing against Stryper, who I love. But again, that's not going to, you can't take a band that plays clubs and small theaters and have them headline a rock festival. And what happens with a lot of these events, they lock into a certain demographic, but there becomes this great level of redundancy. And the promoters are under pressure to try to figure out how to keep it fresh, reinvent it, because what they're up against is all of these bands tour constantly. So it's not unique to be able to see a lot of these bands, because you can go see them. You don't have to go to a festival and stand there all day and pay whatever it costs and sit through maybe 8 bands you don't care about, because it's very likely the 1 or 2 bands you really do want to see, they're going to be playing in your local theater or club at some point in the very near future, which will be cheaper and easier to get to. So the challenge is making it unique and making it and here's a buzzword, experience. Meaning the stuff that goes on above and beyond just the list of bands playing. And what else do you have? And one of the big things that Rocklahoma offers is camping. If you've never been there, there is a huge camp scene. Because it's not near a major city. So these people come and they camp and they build these parties, and it's an incredible scene out there. And then what happens with that is that scene becomes bigger than almost anything, and you get used to seeing the person next to you as the camp spot next to you. You become friends with them. Hey, you come in next year? Yeah, sure. And it almost becomes more about having that party out there than anything else. And you want things like that to happen if you're trying to build a yearly event, because it has to become about more than who's playing. Otherwise, these things sadly go away. I mean, I've been part of so many things that have come and gone. I've been part of things that have gone 15, 20 years and are still going. And the ones that are still going, there's a reason for it. It might not be an exact fit for what you want musically, but there's a reason for it. They've found a formula that works. Whether it's the price point, that they're paying for the bands, whatever it is. The mix of bands, the demographic. You've got to sometimes get a little younger to keep people interested. Sometimes people age out. That's another big thing. Doesn't matter what the lineup is. People reach a certain age. I'm not going to that. I'm not going to something that's 10 hours a day. I'm not doing that. That's why when they did that power trip thing in Palm Springs a few years ago, you remember AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. It was only 2 bands a day at night. That was it. Because the average age there is older. People don't want to stand out there from 11 a.m. till 1 a.m. Now, that was one and done, but that's because, and here's the other challenge you have when you do a festival. Sure, it's great when you get an AC/DC. It's great when you get an Iron Maiden, but the promoter's paying tons of money to that band, so your ticket price is going to be more. And then you complain about the ticket price. That's the balance. You know how many people came up to me over the years at Rocklahoma was like, hey, why don't they get AC/DC out here? Why don't they get Metallica out here? And then I'll turn to that person. I'll say, okay, are you okay with the price of your ticket next year doubling? Well, no, I can't. No. Well, who do you think's paying